For a long time, the Crusades are remembered as religious wars. Stories of faith, knights, holy cities, and belief clashing with belief. But beneath the prayers and banners, something else was happening. Something quieter, something far more permanent. The Crusades did not just change borders, they changed how Europe learned to pay for war. Before the Crusades, Europe was not very good at fighting long, distant wars. Armies were local, campaigns were short. Kings relied on personal wealth, land obligations, and temporary levies. War was expensive, but limited. The Crusades broke this model. Suddenly, war was far away. It lasted years, not months. It required ships, food, weapons, horses, and constant resupply. This was not a raid, it was a logistical problem. And logistics require money. Faith alone could not move armies across continents. Belief could inspire men to march, but it could not feed them. It could not transport them. It could not pay for steel, wood, grain, or ships. Europe needed a new system. To fund crusades, rulers began taxing on a scale rarely seen before. Special levies were created, justified by religion. People were told that paying was part of salvation. Giving money became as important as fighting. War became a shared financial burden. This was new. The church played a central role. It did not just bless wars, it organized them financially. Donations flowed into centralized collections. Funds were redirected across regions. Money began moving systematically for military purposes. Faith became a financial network. Crusaders themselves often lacked cash. Many sold land or mortgaged property to raise funds. This created early credit markets. Wealth was exchanged for promises. Future income was traded for present survival. Debt became normal. And where there's debt, there must be record keeping. This demand created opportunities. Merchant families, money handlers, and early banks stepped in. They moved funds, exchanged currencies, and provided credit. They charged fees. They learned how to profit from movement, not production. War created customers. One of the most important institutions to emerge were the Knights Templar. Known as warrior monks, they also became Europe's first large-scale financial network. A pilgrim could deposit money in one place and withdraw it in another. This reduced risk and increased mobility. It looked like faith. It functioned like banking. The Crusades forced Europe to learn how to move money safely across long distances. This skill would outlive the wars themselves. Once systems exist, they rarely disappear. Trade benefited too. Ships built for war carried goods. Ports expanded. Routes stabilized. Military supply chains quietly became commercial ones. War infrastructure turned into economic infrastructure. Violence built roads for money. States also learned something critical. Borrowing worked. Instead of raising all funds up front through taxes, rulers borrowed against future income. This allowed wars to continue even when coffers were empty. This was dangerous, but effective. Once rulers learned they could fight today and pay tomorrow, war became easier to start. Debt made conflict flexible. Pain was delayed. The Crusades normalized this behavior. Over time, financial innovation outpaced moral restraint. Lending to war became profitable. Interest became acceptable when framed as service. The line between faith and finance blurred. Holy war became organized spending. Europe also learned scale. Managing thousands of soldiers across continents required coordination. Bureaucracy grew. Contracts mattered. Standardization emerged. Weights, measures, and currencies slowly became more consistent. War forced order. When the Crusades ended, these systems did not vanish. Banks remained. Taxes remained. Debt remained. The ability to fund war at scale became permanent. Europe was transformed. Future wars would rely on these foundations. Kings became fiscal managers. States became financial machines. Power shifted from land alone to credit, trust, and institutions. This was the true legacy of the Crusades. Not territory, not faith, but finance. Europe learned that war could be industrialized, that belief could mobilize money, that systems mattered more than zeal. Once learned, this lesson could not be unlearned. Modern war economies trace their roots here. Centralized taxation, war bonds, military spending justified as moral necessity. The logic is the same. The Crusades did not make Europe rich immediately. They made it organized, and organization is power. Holy wars ended. The war economy did not.